we're not perfect by any means. There's a lot of criticism maybe about how we handled certain things, but we've learned from that. And I've had lots of conversations with Chief Noakes about that in the future, how we make sure you have room for peaceful discourse and people have an opportunity to take to the streets on whatever issue it may be. But Fort Worth is we do have to handle, and I like that you talked about the different neighborhoods and areas of the city and how people grow up. What I'm focused on in Fort Worth is there's sometimes depending on which political persuasion you are, certain words irritate you, right? And for me, I kind of wish we just sort of put our guard down and say, we want everyone in Fort Worth to have a place that they are proud to raise their families in, have a career, make a living wage, right? And be a part of our community, whatever community that is for them. And I do think we have sometimes neglected specific neighborhoods
Yeah.
in Fort
Oh,
Worth
no doubt.
that
Yeah.
need and deserve our attention and investment. And that's a responsibility I have as mayor, and our council members feel the same way, is to influence the investments to make sure all neighborhoods are thriving.
It's super challenging. I was having this discussion with my with my with my mom some year ago, and she was talking about a certain area of town, and she was really sort of saying we've got to help this part of town. And where the discussion ultimately went was there were really difficult choices between how do you help the area of town versus how do you help the people who live in that town that maybe need a different type of support system than what we would like to see the town become in that area. How do you balance out the needs of the area of town, the community, the store owners and businesses and residents versus the people who are sort of populating that part of town who may need very specific needs-based support, those types of things?
We've learned a lot in the city. We started a neighborhood revitalization or improvement program and started with the Stop 6 neighborhood. I think that was in 2016. It was an initiative that our city manager, David Cook, started to spearhead within the halls of City Hall and said, hey, we're going to pick out one neighborhood every single year and make a special investment. We're going to choose a neighborhood based on data and demographics and need and make additional investment in that community, everything from streets to sidewalks to curbs to lighting, additional security cameras, and start to reinvest in neighborhood. And we've learned, to your point, about the difference between hard money investments, that go in the ground versus those soft, tangible social needs in community. And every community is different. And so we went from Stop 6 to Ash Crescent to North Side. We're doing Las Vegas Trail. We've done Rosemont. Every single neighborhood has had distinct needs and wants and has worked with city staff to get what they think is best for their communities. And what's wonderful about that is you're also seeing community feel like for the first time, maybe in their lifetime, the city of Fort Worth making additional investment in their neighborhood that they want to be a part of. And then at the same time, we're also meeting different types of business owners and homeowners. And now you realize, hey, if you just had access to this kind of capital, so all those things are working together. Now we can layer those neighborhood investments that are happening with maybe, we talked about like the Rosedale Renaissance area over in Wesleyan, right? That's a great example of public infrastructure partnership with Texas Wesleyan community. You're going to continue to see that type of mindset in the investments we make in the city. And then I hope one thing I can offer is the bully pulpit of the mayor's office to convene philanthropy, nonprofits, financial institutions, and others to come to the table and say, okay, we've done some investment. Now this is what's missing. And we can't do this. It's not the responsibility of government, but we need help from the community to get that done. And by then you've got relationships within the community to let them dictate rather than someone coming in to tell them what to do.
Have you, with the growth that we've seen, are there emerging trends that concern you, or that
Cost of housing, affordable housing is a big deal. And I actually had a great meeting today with some really leading, I think they're really entrepreneurs in affordable housing, understanding the needs there. We have a wonderful, several organizations in Fort Worth that are doing a great job. But I think we have to be mindful of different types of products in the inner city to make sure you're offering affordable housing for everyone, and reminding people that affordable housing is actually for teachers and police officers and firefighters and first year out of college and others, families that deserve to make
How are they defining the affordable housing?
Well, just that. It just depends on what type of housing it really is. It's a tax credit product, depending on how much percentage of AMI it is, and everything up to fully subsidized housing for like permanent supportive housing to help those that have been formerly homeless. Um, and then also partnering as a city to make sure that we're planning from a city plan perspective different products, because we're learning Gen Z and millennials especially, they don't necessarily need the full yard, 2-car garage, like, maybe the townhome duplex product is just fine for them. So
It seems like the philosophy has really changed about affordable housing over the years. If you think back, just on the west side of Fort Worth, downtown, there used to be the housing, which is torn down now, where the thought was to build, the people call them the projects, but housing everybody together in certain groups, which clearly did not work long term. And so the movement has really, I think, moved towards housing people in different neighborhoods and providing assistance.
Yes.
Is that more of what you're seeing?
It
And is that working better?
It's working for Fort Worth. So Fort Worth Housing Solutions has done a fantastic job over the last decade, and they've utilized a program called RAD, or Rental Assistance Demonstration. And it's a program set up through HUD. HUD started to recognize these larger public housing developments were not the way to go. And we had two in Fort Worth, Butler Place and Cradle. Butler Place is adjacent to downtown in District 8, and then Cradle is in Stop 6 in District 5. And we started with Stop 6, and we're finishing with Butler to allow residents a choice to move outside of the current development across into another affordable housing unit in the city of their choosing, usually a new unit. And then we're going to redevelop. In Cradle Place right now, we won a $35 million HUD grant under Mayor Price's administration to redevelop that Stop 6 project. They're going to do senior housing first and bring back families. And it's going to be beautiful housing in Stop 6, help with redevelopment efforts. And then we'll do something similar in Butler Place, but it'll probably be more on a private sector side. But the great thing about this program is you allow residents that had historically lived in that housing development to come back if they want to once the new housing is built. They get first preference to come back if that's something they wanted to do. And it's been immensely successful in Fort Worth. And I don't know how many cities can say they now have been able to place those residents across the city and other places to redevelop. But I don't think it's not that many cities have done what we've done.
Well, I remember when Fort Worth was first doing that some years ago, and there was a tremendous amount of community resistance to it.
Yeah. And thanks to the Housing Solutions staff, they were very careful and methodical about how they went about it. Mary Margaret Lemons is their CEO. She does a fantastic job. They have a really strong board in working with community members to slowly talk to the members of the community about what this meant for Fort Worth. And I think the really exciting thing with Cradle Place and Stop 6 is you're going to start to see that development take off and really see the opportunity for that community. Yeah.
It would seem like that, along with that, everything's sort of a domino effect, right? As we grow, and you were saying, okay, well, with growth comes increase in, housing affordability. With that, I would think that as you solve housing affordability, now you've got public transportation issue coming right behind that. I would think is that sort of, am I right about, is that sort of the next domino that has?
So let me poll y'all first, and then I'll give you my little stump speech. What are your thoughts on public transportation, and specifically what you wish Fort Worth did?
In Fort Worth or in general?
Yeah, both maybe.
I mean, I've never taken any form of public transportation in Fort Worth. The only one that I've ever considered is the train to Dallas. And I've heard a few Star Telegram stories about why I probably shouldn't do that.
Okay.
So
You would be interested in using it if it was available?
I would, I don't know. I'm willing to spend the money for the convenience, but that's...
Okay, fair enough.
Well,
if it was awesome, okay, because obviously go to New York, it's like obviously the default is the subway.
Right.
Part of that is necessity of logistically in New York, it's easier.
Yeah.
But if it was great, if it was clean, if it was efficient, if I don't have to waste my time to go sit there and spend 15 minutes wondering when it's going to happen.
I think if we had some intercity transportation, like bringing people from Stockyards to downtown, bringing people from downtown to, Magnolia, to the different parts of town to move people through the city as they connect the entertainment districts. For example.
Our transit system is powered by Trinity Metro, by half a cents of sales tax that the city dedicates. That I think is pretty traditional bus system, and also their hard work with TexRail and their partnership with TRE, which is wonderful. And I decided when I became mayor, rather than point fingers or be frustrated about what wasn't working or what is working, that I asked 2 council members to serve on the Trinity Metro board. And that's a big ask because it's another committee meeting every month to go to. So Michael Crane on behalf of District 3, and then Chris Nettles on behalf of District 8 both serve on that board.
Oh, no, Michael Crane.
Okay, yeah. And our hope is they gain more knowledge on public transportation in partnership with Trinity Metro. And so as we partner on some of these opportunities in the future, we have better relationships moving forward. Just like any other industry, but maybe more than any in transportation, is tech innovation is completely transforming that industry. And so what does public transportation look like into the future? No one really knows. We can guess. And so we want to be at the forefront of that technology, but at the same time accepting that right now there are people across Fort Worth that depend on our bus system to get to and from work and doctor's appointments and others. And we need to make sure we have the most efficient, well-run system possible. And I think we're getting there. I have a great relationship with Trinity Metro, and I'll keep working on that. And then I am really excited about in Fort Worth these transit-oriented developments that integrate transit into the development from the beginning to create a relationship between the people that live there and work there and the system, if that makes sense. And that would be the Lancaster corridor is a good example of what that could be. Any economic development opportunities we see will be a part of integrated into any kind of bus or future rail system on Lancaster.
Are they looking at a rail system?
Well, our plan is like you plan for the best. So if the best is rail, then let's plan for that, even if that's not the first technology that you implement.
So you mentioned technology, using the state-of-the-art technology and all that. So what are you referencing there? I mean.
So a few things. So first of all, if you stray from public transportation for a second and focus on the Mobility Innovation Zone that Alliance and Hillwood have implemented, it's phenomenal. And that's mostly focused on air technology and air taxis and air transport for goods. That is here. That is coming. Then you have autonomous vehicles. That is coming, right? What does autonomous vehicles mean for the future of public transportation? No one knows what that's going to look like, but we could be on the forefront of that as well. High-speed rail as a part of the Texas infrastructure will happen at some point, and we want to be best prepared for high-speed rail between Dallas and Fort Worth, and rebuilding the I-30 corridor that can also include high-speed rail. And then lastly is this idea behind let's plan for the future. So if we put bus rapid transit on a line now and it's ready for rail in the future, great. And you see light rail in places like Kansas City that have been a huge boom. Those are expensive, very expensive projects. So you have to kind of do an analysis on whether it's worth it or not. But I think that those are decisions that the city's going to get to make in the next several years.
Yeah, that'd be exciting to be on the forefront of that. With the drone technology, I know Bell Helicopter's working on stuff.
They're great partners. TexRail in particular can take you from downtown Fort Worth to the airport and back. And we're looking for expansion of TexRail from downtown Fort Worth into the medical district to connect that major corridor of the medical district at the airport, which is really exciting.
So what do people who currently don't see any benefit to this, what do they say in this process? What's the benefit to them, or is there none?
There may not be, and so they may argue, why are you wasting sales tax dollars, use it on something else? You hear that plenty. I've heard someone say, just give everybody that drives the bus a Cadillac. It's cheaper than providing bus service, literally. Some people want you.
Is that actually cheaper, though?
No.
Okay. So it's like, if it was.
Yeah, exactly. Then you hear of people say, well, why don't we do like Arlington? They don't have public transportation. They just use they have a partnership with VIA to get.
Yeah, but nobody lives in Arlington.
Well, they have 600,000 people.
No, those aren't real people.
He has a negative opinion of anything that's not Fort Worth.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, that's your.
You said earlier about the culture of Fort Worth and protecting that, and you mentioned that whether that's a business or a city, that's really important. to maintain